Hey friends, Ash here with Gents, coming at you guys with another list video today. Today I'm going to be taking a look at 5 different fragrances that are unexpected compliment getters. Yeah, another video about compliments. Yeah, compliments are not really the end-all be-all fragrances for myself. Definitely they aren't, but for a lot of you out there, I know they're really important. So in this video, I'm talking about fragrances that maybe off the top of your head or first sniff, you wouldn't think that these are big compliment pulling fragrances, but at least for me, they have been. So some of these fragrances are going to be ones that when you really think about it, you'll be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, I guess. And other ones here you would think, definitely not a compliment puller, but for me, it has been. So we've got a lot to talk about, 5 different fragrances to go over. Let's jump into this. All right, the first one is from the house of Bulgari. This is in their Man line, and this is one that gets overlooked a little bit. It's somewhat divisive. Some people don't like this a ton. Other people think that it's really, really nice. I'm one of the people that thinks it's a pretty nice fragrance. Bulgari Man Black Cologne. So this one is in the black line with Man in Black and all of those flankers like Black Orient. Where this one differs a lot from those other fragrances is this one is supposed to be more centered or geared for warm weather. So springtime, summertime. That being said, it still has a rum note. So it's gonna have that bit of a boozy character, some richness, some deepness. Some people might even say a little bit syrupy. It does have that. So it's not gonna be as refreshing or uplifting as a whole lot of other summer fragrances are. Now this does have some notes to offset or contrast with the rum. There's citrus in here, there's green notes, there's a little bit of orange blossom as well. So you do have some stuff in here that's gonna work a little bit better with weather like this. Warm, bright, sunny, but there's also a good amount of resins in here. So you've got some amber in here, I believe benzoin as well. So you've got that side, the rum, the resins, and then you've got the polar opposite with citrus, green notes, and orange blossom, and they just kind of meld together and work together. So that means it's the type of fragrance that you can wear during the day in high heat. You can wear it casually, wear it to the office, but at the same time, it's gonna have a different type of sweetness than you would usually find in a warm weather scent. So this one's like you've got a base of a wintertime fragrance and then the top of a summertime fragrance put together. Might be a little bit cloying, a little bit heavy for some people out there for warm weather, so maybe you want to dial back the sprays a little bit. Performance on this pretty good as well. But this fragrance actually, even though it's a bit of a mishmash, a bit of a meld of ideas, really works well for pulling compliments. As I mentioned before, it's a little bit divisive. Some people don't like that mixture of warm weather stuff with cool weather stuff slapped together. Some people don't like that, but a lot of people do, and surprisingly, really attention grabbing. During the summer, a lot of people are wearing gem type fragrances, you know, things without a huge amount of depth, and something like this really stands out. And for me, it has actually been a really solid compliment pulling fragrance. So there's the first one in this list, Bulgari Man Black Cologne. Overlooked a little bit, but solid. Next up in this list, a fragrance from the house of Hugo Boss. This is in their Decant line, and it's the newest fragrance in that line, Absolute. This one has Menenka, ginger, and vetiver. So of course, the Decant line, most well known for that Menenka note. It's an exotic fruity note. It's got kind of a dusty character with a little bit of sweetness in there. If you've smelled any of the scent fragrances, that's going to be the common denominator, and you can pick it out right away. It's very noticeable. You can just smell this from the atomizer, spray it on your skin, spray it on the tester strip, the Menenka jumps right off. The ginger in here, gonna give you that little bit of a effervescent, slightly spicy, fresh pop, and then the vetiver is the base of this fragrance, gonna give you a little bit of a woody vibe. Now, the Hugo Boss, the scent line, really, in general, all of them, is a line of fragrances that you may not immediately think of as compliment pullers, especially if you're not used to the way Menenka smells in these fragrances. Might come across a little bit too powdery, a little bit funky, a little bit out of the ordinary, and you may think, nah, that just wouldn't work. Surprisingly though, the scent line, at least for me, has worked very, very well with compliments. My favorite one being Private Accord, which has a little bit of a coffee note in there. But this one, Absolute, works just as well for compliments as Private Accord does. Now, when this fragrance first came out and I reviewed it, I said it was okay. I still preferred Private Accord at the time, and frankly, I still prefer Private Accord now, but this one does just as well as Private Accord with grabbing attention and pulling compliments. When I wear that one, my wife loves it. Gotten good compliments from her friends as well when going out on the town, when that was actually a thing. I mean, here lately, not as much, but it does really well. So even if that Meninka turns you off, the fragrance itself, pretty good, at least within the confines of what we're talking about here today. All right, next up is a fragrance that I absolutely love. Every time I wear this fragrance, I compliment myself. So huge compliment puller. I smell it and I go, hey, smelling good, bro. Of course, that doesn't really count. Or does it? Maybe the most important compliment is the one we give ourselves. I just totally made that up. I don't know about that, but the fragrance, African Leather by Memo. And this is the one that really turned me on to Memo as a brand. First time I smelled this, it was as a sample, fell in love with it, bought it immediately, and then bought up a whole bunch of the other fragrances in this line and fragrances outside of this line from this house, just because I love this one so much. Now, this is a niche fragrance that has that designer type feel to it. So this is not a niche fragrance that's trying to necessarily be super artistic, but it is very wearable. I know some people that are more into niche fragrance as art or as being really something, pushing boundaries, don't like African Leather. My friend Eugene from You Smells Good does not like African Leather, and I completely respect his opinion. For me, it's just one of the easiest leather fragrances on earth to wear. Saffron, cardamom, little tiny touch of cumin, and the cumin here doesn't come across like body odor to me. For some people, cumin comes across smelling like sweat or body odor. Don't get that at all here. Little touch of vetiver in there as well. It's awesome as far as ease of use. Extremely versatile, daytime, nighttime, spring, fall, winter for me. Not really a summertime fragrance necessarily, but I might still bust it out in summer anyway. And big compliment puller. Tension grabbing, fantastic fragrance. Yeah. Again, Eugene, I know you hate this man, but I like it. All right, next fragrance is from the house of Tom Ford. And this one is one of the ones that you would probably not think of as a compliment pulling fragrance. And I would agree with you, just based off of my first impression of this fragrance. I was like, yeah, that's not something a lot of people are gonna like, but some people really do gravitate toward this. Noir Anthracite. Ebony wood, cedar, ginger, bergamot, spices, some of the notes in here. This one, very divisive. Out of all these fragrances, the most divisive one easily. It's got kind of a soil sort of vibe to it, like a little bit like dirt. And not even necessarily in a really dirty way. Now, I know that might sound weird when I say soil or dirt, but not necessarily dirty, but that's how the spices in here come across. One of the things with Noir Anthracite is a lot of people out there will say, oh, it's unwearable. It's, again, too much like soil, too much like dirt. It's just too funky. I hate it. It's gross, etc., etc. The thing is, though, the way the spices come across here, that little bit of soil earthiness, that kind of vibe that Noir Anthracite gives off, Parfums de Marley Cologne does pretty much the same thing. Now, they're not the exact same fragrance, they don't smell the same, but the way the spices in Cologne come across and give you that sort of earthy vibe, that's what's happening here with Noir Anthracite. The difference is, and again, the fragrances aren't the exact same, so this is kind of painting with a broad brush, but Cologne got a lot of hype and people saying, oh, what a compliment puller, what a beast. Noir Anthracite did not. So while the spices are doing essentially the same thing, just kind of a slightly different way, but essentially the same thing, one of those fragrances caught hype, the other didn't, and that helped shape opinion for a lot of people. Now, I'll admit, Noir Anthracite is not the easiest fragrance to wear if you're just now getting into fragrances or you haven't smelled a lot of things that are potentially a little bit challenging or divisive. For some people out there, when they spray this on, they're gonna be like, oh, gross, and just write it off immediately. Just snap reaction, hate it, move on. And I get that. At one point in my life, I would have done the same thing. Would have sprayed it on and been like, oh, hate it, move on. But if you spray this on, let it settle on your skin, give it some time, it's actually a big compliment pulling fragrance, potentially. Obviously, if you hate the fragrance, you spray it on and you're just carrying yourself like you're completely unsure of what you're wearing and you're, you know, really self-conscious, probably not gonna do so well in pulling attention or positive attention at that point. But as long as you wear this with confidence, let it dry down, let it settle, get a feel for the fragrance, and as long as you like it, yeah, potential compliment puller. And between this one and Parfums de Marley Cologne, I actually prefer Noir Anthracite. Cologne, I'm just not really a fan of, honestly. It's probably my least favorite Parfums de Marley of all the ones that I own. Actually, I'd say it definitely is. And I know a lot of you out there love it, so that's not a shot against you. I'm not saying that you have terrible taste. If you like Cologne, it's just for me personally, not really a fan. For me, if I want that kind of vibe, that earthiness from spice, I'll reach for this one. And the woods in this one are very good as well as it dries down. So Tom Ford Noir Anthracite, unexpected compliment puller. That's gonna bring me to the last one on this list. And this one is more a classic barbershop type fragrance, a classic gentlemanly, sort of sophisticated type fragrance. Not very expensive. I talked about this years ago, maybe 3 years ago, for a St. Patrick's Day video, which it's gonna make sense because the fragrance's name is Patrick and it's from Fragrances of Ireland, and it's getting close to empty. So this one says it's a cologne spray, 100 milliliter size. I bought this off of eBay. I believe that's typically where most people pick these up from. It's not very expensive. It smells really nice. This one has green notes in it. It's got carnation, which is a floral note that was used in men's fragrances much more often in fragrances from decades gone by in the past. You've also got fern in here. You've got oak moss, you've got vetiver. Again, it's gonna be more of a classic style fragrance, a little bit of an old school vibe, barbershoppy vibe, but it smells really, really, really nice for the price. There's a little bit of soapiness in there, a little bit of powder kind of as it dries down, but it smells great. And springtime, summertime, daytime, even dressed up in a suit and tie, that one absolutely kills it. Kind of one of my like hidden weapon fragrances, secret weapon fragrances, because not too many people are wearing it. It's not really got a flashy presentation. Actually, they even sell these at Busch Gardens in Williamsburg, Virginia, a theme park. They have a little Ireland section of the park, and they sell this in there, of course, because it's from Fragrances of Ireland, like I said. But this is an unexpected, attention-grabbing fragrance. It's cheap. Again, not too much fancy about the packaging. The note breakdown, there's nothing super special going on there. When you smell the fragrance, you might think, oh yeah, nice, clean, a little bit old school, but man, this stuff works. People seem to love this off of me. Big compliment pulling fragrance, Patrick. And that's gonna be the last one in this video, in this list. Patrick Fragrances of Ireland. You want a really nice, inexpensive, semi-barbershoppy, soapy, powdery toward the dry down, green, sophisticated, masculine scent. Check it out. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me. If you smelled any of these fragrances, let me know what you think about them in the comments below. As always, thanks so much for hanging out with me today, guys. Stay safe out there. See you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.